Hi, this is Aaliyah Swaby, and you're listening to WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from New Haven, Connecticut, and streaming live at www.newhavenindependent.org.
Baba Fururu, Olorere o, O Kanyenye Lejibo, Ileri fa o basi basa o, Elejibo rere basi ba o, Enu aye ya wa loro, e ya wa loro elesioga.
Welcome to Deep Focus, a radio show about movies and New Haven. I'm your host, Tom Breen, and I've been looking forward to doing this show for a long time. I'm joined in the studio today by Jim Barone, who is, I think it's safe to say, one of the stars of the new Adam Sandler Netflix comedy The Week Of, that stars Sandler as a kind of working class, middle class Long Island contractor whose daughter is getting married to a med student, the son of a character played by Chris Rock, who's the successful doctor in the movie. And the movie, in true Sandler fashion, chronicles the hijinks and exploits of that, and pretty sentimental too, exploits of the reconciliation between these two families, and with Jim Barone sitting right at the center of it. So without further ado, Jim, welcome to WNHH. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm doing well. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pull that mic even closer. Excellent. And so Alan Appel, one of our reporters here at The Independent, did a story on you back in November of 2017. But I wonder, for folks who have not read that or may not be familiar with you already, could you give us the story of how you ended up at the middle of an Adam Sandler Netflix comedy?
Actually, I was up at Gaylord Hospital up in Wallingford recovering from my second amputation of my leg, and or my second leg being amputated, and I was there for 5 months as an inpatient, and I used to horse around quite a bit when I was there and clown around, and when I was an outpatient, I went to say hello to some of the people I used to work out with, and they had said that they had a team meeting that week, and they had just received a email from a casting company looking for a double amputee to play the part of Seymour Listic, Adam Sandler's 87-year-old uncle, in an upcoming Netflix movie. So I said, well, what are you asking me for? I never acted before. And like, oh, you'd be perfect. You and Adam Sandler would be great together. I said, guys, I never acted before. I said, plus they were looking for somebody 62 to 80. I'm 56 at the time. And
so this is in the spring of 2017 that
yes,
they reached out?
Correct. Yeah, it was probably late April, early May. So they finally talked me into it, and I sent an email in explaining who I was, and I was interested in the part. And they sent one back the next day and said, please read these lines on tape and get them back to us. And they were kind of boring. It was about Adam meeting me at the airport. He said, I got to go to the bathroom. He takes me in the bathroom, and we actually filmed at my sister-in-law's house on Easter Sunday. And she's in the TV side of the business, getting actors and actresses for commercials and things like that. And I said, well, it's kind of boring. I said, should I ad-lib it? She goes, do it straight the way they want, and then ad-lib it. So I did it straight the way they want it. And then I said, well, if I'm 87, I wouldn't talk like this. So I used a different voice. I used the Seymour Listic voice. And if you see the movie, you'll know who I am. And I guess when Robert Smigmel, the director, saw it, he goes, "That's Seymour."
Hmm.
And they were skeptical because I was so young, and they had lined up 3 guys to come into New York. They did a nationwide search, all actors and actresses. Actors, excuse me, not actors. And they did a nationwide search, and they narrowed it down to a few people, and had lined up 3 people to come in and do makeup in New York. And I was the first one, and I went in, did makeup, joked around a little bit with those guys, and did the character a little bit, and. Next day they called me and said, "If you want the part, it's yours."
So I want to hear all about your actual experience on the set and with Sandler and your future trajectory as an actor. But you mentioned that you didn't have any background as an actor when they reached out to you. But tell us fill us in a bit more on where you grew up, I understand you worked at Yale for a number of years,
I was at Yale.
and then how you ended up at Gaylord in the first place.
Well, I was diabetic and got some pretty bad staph infections in my legs, and tried for almost 5 years. Well, 2 years to save one leg, and that one was a lost cause, and we had to have that amputated above the knee. And then the other one got infected, and same thing. We had to end up amputating it. The second one, I got very sick. The infection went septic, and I was as close to death as you would be. Matter of fact, when I got to Gaylord, the doctor came in and said, "I've never seen anybody as sick as you, Mr. Barone, make it here alive." And I said, "Well, I'm here."
Could you pull that
Yep.
mic even a bit closer? Thanks.
Yep.
So it sounds like your history with diabetes and very close encounters with death is kind of what put you in Gaylord. But are you from the area?
I'm from Hamden, grew up, born and bred. Went to Hamden High School, and graduated from there. I got a job at Yale back in the mid-'90s, and worked for the telecommunications department. And I was there for a number of years, and then with everything going wireless, they cut the staff down, and I ended up over at the athletic department, working at the Pain Wetting Gym, and worked there for a number of years. And then it just didn't become, with my injuries, it just didn't become feasible to work anymore. So I'm retired right now. Well, semi-retired, trying to get into the acting business.
And so no acting history, but have you any stand-up comedy history? It seems like your comic chops were what won you over to Robert Smigel, the director.
I've done a little bit at locally in Branford. I've done a little stand-up, but the guys running it, we're not seeing eye to eye right now, so we'll see. I introduced myself as a sit-down comedian, not a stand-up comedian. So, but
well,
yeah.
If you want to interject with any stand-up material at any point in the show, we're more than happy to hear it.
Well,
but
I don't know if we could air some of the stuff.
Yes, I did caution you that
yes.
we are on FM radio right now.
So
then let's so you think it was the voice that won over Robert Smigel? Was that the kicker? Or, tell us more about your audition.
I think that, and I think when
like?
they met me, I joked around. I told them a few stories and things that had happened to me throughout my life, and when they would come over to see how the makeup was going, I'd say, "What are you looking at?" And they just liked my character. They liked the way I portrayed the character, and the makeup was tough. I mean, that was an hour-and-a-half process every day. And we filmed in July and August on Long Island, so it was hard. But the guys who did my makeup actually worked for Saturday Night Live. They do Alec Baldwin to make him look like Donald Trump, and all the other characters on Saturday Night Live. And great guys to work with. They made it livable. And but the makeup part of it was tough.
So
and,
the same folks that are transforming Alec Baldwin into Donald Trump are turning 57-year-old Jim Barone into 80 however old
87-year-old Seymour Listic from Miami,
the
Florida.
war hero. So I should say, I'm sure that people are, most people listening to the show are familiar with these names, but Adam Sandler, the kind of breakout young comedian from Saturday Night Live, and
Right.
a number of very successful comedies, including Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison,
Right.
and Big Daddy stuff. He was kind of a star of the '90s. Chris Rock, also a very successful comedian. Robert Smigel, longtime collaborator with Adam Sandler. But Sandler, I think in 2014, signed a 4-movie deal with Netflix, where
Yes,
he was
he
producing these original movies for Netflix.
Yeah, he did
right?
4, and the first 3 were so popular that he actually signed a contract to do 4 more after the 4 that he's already done. So,
According to Netflix, they're the most watched original movies on Netflix. Now, Netflix is pretty cagey about what numbers they release, but
Right.
these movies, even though some of them have not been the most critically acclaimed, they certainly seem to be phenomenally popularly
I don't
popular.
spend a lot of time paying attention to the critics. They trashed our movie a little bit, and Sandy Wexler, and I saw Sandy Wexler, and the first time I wasn't crazy about it, but I've watched it since, and it's hysterical. And that's one of the four series that he did. The other movies I haven't really got a chance to watch yet, but our movie, very funny again. And I'm not just saying that because I was in it. It's hysterical. It is funny from beginning to end. It's as good as anything Adam's made. You know, I've read articles that, he's just not funny anymore. Well, I spent 5 weeks with him. He's funny. He's very funny. Trust me.
So, well, first let me say you're listening to Deep Focus on WNHH LP, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm in the studio today with Jim Barone, a.k.a. Seymour Lustig, one of the stars of the new Adam Sandler comedy, The Week Of, which is now playing on Netflix. So you mentioned that makeup was a big deal. Took an hour and a half each day, transforming you into the semi-World War II vet. That's kind of part of the comedy of the movie. But tell us more about, just put us on set with you, Jim. Any other memorable experiences?
They put me up in a 5-star hotel in the penthouse suite. I was allowed to bring an assistant with me who they paid.
And where was this? Long Island?
It was all in Long Island. Glen Cove, Floral Park. We took over Town Hall one day. We took over a ballpark another day. We took over a hospital another day. We took over JFK, wing of JFK Airport another day. And
and how long total were you? How many days?
I was
were you
there.
on?
I got to Long Island on July 5th, and I left on July 10th. They had to be done with my characters filming on August 10th, because my makeup guys had to go back to Saturday Night Live.
So you were from July 5th to August 10th?
But I only shot 20 of those days.
Got it.
So, but they were long days.
So so how long were the days?
The shortest day I had, I think, was 10 hours, and that was one day, I think. The rest were 13, 14, 18 hours.
So how'd you fare? I mean, Long Island son, you're new to acting. This is a totally new chapter in your life.
It was. I was exhausted. I'll tell you. I didn't want to go home, but I had to go home. I was absolutely exhausted. I was spent. I really was. It was. I was getting up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That's usually what time I go to bed. But they had a limo come pick me up every morning in front of the hotel, and so I had my own trailer on set. I had my own stunt double, Brian Anderson, great guy. Meeting him was good. He's a Iraqi vet. He's actually blown up in Iraq by an IED, and lost his legs and his hand. And he had an identical twin brother. That's how they fashioned his hand after his brother. But a great guy to meet. He's done quite a few things. He's done CSI New York and Hawaii 5-0 and different other things. So it was a lot of fun meeting him. And
so what's it like having a stunt double on a comedy? I mean,
it was fun because
you say the jokes and then they pull in Brian for the.
If I didn't want to do anything, I just didn't send Brian, let him do it. But no, I wanted to do everything. I kind of felt bad sometimes because he'd be sitting there in full makeup too, and a lot of times they wouldn't need him. Sometimes he'd sit there all day and they just wouldn't use him. But I don't want to give away movie magic, but they used him quite a bit.
So give us a moment or two. I mean, one of the maybe the focal points of your character's role in the movie is at this Little League baseball game when you're dressed up in your World War II garb, and all of these people are coming up and thanking you for your service, even though the character's actual service is a bit dubious, but people certainly celebrate him.
They assume that I am a World War II hero who got blown up in World War II. As I said, they assume that.
I believe one little girl says, "Thank you for killing all the Nazis."
Thank you for killing all the Nazis. Yes, that was actually Adam Sandler's daughter. He says that. Both his daughters are in the movie. His wife's in the movie. As in most of the movies he does, he always has his wife and daughter. His nephew's in the movie. His nephew plays the ex of the girl that's getting married, the next door neighbor. Steve Buscemi, again, who played my son. He's in most of Adam's movies.
So take us behind the scene for that the Little League scene. I mean, what's any particular moments in terms of you trying out new lines, or Sandler giving you direction, or just goofing off with the
For the
crew?
most part, they let me go. I was surprised. The first day we shot, I was actually 2 hours late coming to the set. Not my fault. It was just the process of putting the makeup on and everything made me 2 hours late. And when I pulled up, I was like, everything was set up, and I was like, wow, Hollywood, And they basically got me out of the car, put me sitting into the car where I was banging on the window, asking him where he's been, and fed me to the fish. You're on your own. But Adam, from time to time, would come out and say, could do this or do it that way. But for the most part, they just let me go. And which I found, interesting to say the least. I mean, I figured they would give me a lot more coaching, and they didn't. Maybe I guess I was doing it right. I don't know.
What'd you like most about acting? Someone who's not worked in this field before. What were you most nervous about? What do you think you really got kind of intuitively?
I never really felt nervous. They always made me feel so comfortable. And what I liked most is we were, anywhere we went, we were the king. We had police escorts and everything, and we were on one side of the picket line, they were on the other, fans and whatnot. And kids would come running up and ask for my autograph and things like that. And it was just fun being a part of the whole thing and just seeing how the process of making a movie gets done. And it was just a lot of fun. The days went by quick, even though they were 18-hour days. Adam was great on set. He at one point when they had rented a house that we filmed at, and he got everybody in the whole house dancing to a song that he was playing on his little boombox. And he got the sound people, the camera people, the actors, everybody's on the countertops. And he got the whole house just dancing and singing. And just part of his, just make it light, and he's a lot of fun to work with.
So I want to ask you a bit about your relationship with Sandler, because you've said in our correspondences before this interview, you've said nothing but nice things about him. He seems like he's really impressed you. But from someone who only knows Sandler through his movies, I think he's carved out a very distinct comedic personality that he's played off of for almost 3 decades now, which is
right.
And kind of this a bit of an overgrown child who has this very deep well of anger just below the surface that is kind of constantly bubbling out. And part of his physical comedy is the way that he not so successfully suppresses that. And that comes through a lot in the week of, right? The kind of closed door shouting matches that he has with his wife. Kind of every other scene he seems to be venting, and then the way that he is suppressing his frustration with the manager at the hotel who's not fixing up the room properly. So is this just Adam Sandler the character, that well of anger?
I only saw him lose his temper, I think, once on set, and he was basically he's wearing many hats. He co-wrote the movie, produced the movie, and kind of co-directed it with Robert. So I mean, he was wearing a lot of hats. I only saw him lose his temper once, and it was for a short period. Other than that, he's just so much fun to work with. He's so easygoing, and he jokes with you. He treats you like a normal human being, and I never was starstruck by him. I always, when I'd see him, hey, Adam, how was your weekend? And, I can't tell you some of the things he said. Again, I'm going to keep it G-rated. So, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's just a very laid-back guy. As a matter of fact, I was talking to his manager, who's a lifelong friend of his. He actually met in junior high school. And I said, is he the same now as he was back then? He said, for the most part, yeah, he's the same guy, He hasn't really changed, And I asked his wife the same thing. I said, is he the same at home? And she goes, every day.
What about your history with Sandler as an actor? I mean, are you a fan of his 90s stuff?
I've always liked him. I've always liked him. I didn't know what to expect. I figured I would meet him before the movie. Maybe we'd go out to dinner and talk, and hey, we're going to do this and that. They said I pulled up and here you go, time, welcome to Hollywood, and so that was that. I didn't know what to expect, but they said he made me feel very comfortable. And just to show you the kind of guy he is, the first day we were shooting, we went out and had lunch. Which was always a buffet, like you're at the best wedding you've ever been at ever. So anyway, I came back from lunch and there's about 10 people on the police picket line there, and I went over to say hello to him and talk to him, and they're like, "Oh, where's Adam?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to talk to me?" And so I said, "I was inside." I said, "Well, we all work in the restaurant, but we couldn't get parts as extras." And I said, "Oh, that's too bad." I said, "I'll see if he'll come out and say hello." So I went inside, and he said, "What are you giving out autographs there, Jim?" I said, "No, I was actually talking to him, and they all work in the restaurant, and they couldn't get parts as extras, and they wonder if you would come out and say hello." And he dropped what he was doing, went outside, took pictures with all of them, signed autographs for every one of them, and he did that no matter where we went. Always went out of his way to give out autographs and say hello to people. And he's a genuine guy. He really is.
Sounds like considering his level of celebrity, It's pretty humble.
Right.
What you're describing. I want to ask, besides Sandler, who is your other favorite actor you met on set?
Oh, Steve Buscemi by far. He's as I said, I said to you before we came in, I didn't realize how funny he was until I met him. And just in person, he's just so funny and such a good guy. we filmed I think the third day at JFK Airport, and I was just getting ready to go in to do makeup. It was about 7 in the morning. I always had to be on the set 2 hours early because I had the most makeup. And I heard someone say, "Where's Jim? Where's Jim?" And I turned around, and I didn't recognize him at first. And he came over. He said, "Hey, I'm Steve." I said, "Oh, hey, Steve, how you doing?" And he introduced himself. Said looking forward to working with me. He always went out of his way to say hello to me. And he was just happy to be walking by the trailer. And again, he really laid back guy. You could tell he was a New Yorker. Didn't walk around with any security guards. He's just Steve. And just a really good guy and a lot of fun to work with. And they all were.
We've spoken about a lot of movies, especially recently with Steve Buscemi and then The Death of Stalin,
right.
Pete, and he's a phenomenal actor. So it's always good to hear that the people you admire turn out to be good guys as well. I want to transition a bit to the your thoughts on the movie itself. Now that it's done and you're seeing yourself in it. But I want to ask one more time, what was the most surprising thing for you as a non-professional actor going onto the set? Meeting all of these big stars. What was it that you thought, oh, wow, I would have never guessed that this would have happened like this?
It's really hard to say. I mean, it was little things, small things, not so much big things. For instance, the scene at the airport where the guy from the airline wheels me into the airport. From what I understood, they flew him in from Chicago to do that one scene and flew him back. I don't know why they didn't get somebody local, but they apparently wanted him. But nothing, just little things. But there was nothing really major that hit me in the face. Like, wow, geez, I never would have expected that. I now understand why it costs so much to make a movie. I mean, just the logistics of things. I filmed at about 5 different locations, and we had trailers. We had about maybe I'd say 15 trailers, and they had to be moved every day if we were going to another set by Teamsters. And they'd, move them in at night, and they'd be all set up in the morning, and, you had to feed, 100, 200 people a day. So it's quite a process. But I said nothing that really hit me in the face. Is just surprised about little things that, it takes to make a movie. It's a big process, a really big process.
So the big process, being complete and done behind the scenes come, I guess a couple weeks ago now. The movie is out, available on Netflix. When was the first time you saw the final cut?
I saw it. They brought us. We had the premiere at the Lincoln Center in New York, and we saw it there, the movie there, and then went over to Tavern on the Green for cocktails afterwards.
So what was the premiere at Lincoln Center like?
It was tremendous. The whole red carpet. It was actually white carpet, but the red carpet, the whole deal. They sent a limo to my house to pick me up, and I brought some friends with me, and I brought my date was one of the girls that was in the movie. Became friends with, and hey Whitney, and so it was just surreal. That was surreal more than the movie, I think, because all the cameras, and people wanted to talk to me and whatnot, and I was almost done going through the line, and I heard Jimmy, come here take pictures, and it was Adam, and he called me over to take pictures with him, and I filmed for 20 days. The movie itself filmed for, I think, 40 days. So I filmed just about half of the time the movie took to film the whole entire thing. And so I didn't see a lot of it. And I wasn't part of a lot of it. So when they showed it, and I was hysterical. I mean, I laughed from beginning to end. And every time I've seen it, I've laughed. It's a very funny movie. Very funny movie.
I know you're answering this now, but I still want to ask, yeah, the movie's done. Do you feel like it... were you laughing as much on set as when you finally watched it? Or are you surprised with how it was put together?
There were times...
You're just satisfied with how good it came out?
No, I knew it was going to be a good movie when I was on set. I didn't think it would be as good as it was because they added so much to it. There's so much... I mean, when they're done filming, they're not even done with half the movie. I mean, the post-production is quite a bit of work, but... there were a couple times the director had to remind me to remember my lines because Adam was making me laugh so hard just going into Adam Sandler. Because he would be sitting there being Adam, and then he'd go into Adam Sandler. And just that face that he would make when he's trying to open the wheelchair, that always gave him a hard time. And I just started cracking up, and I couldn't get to my line in time. So
that's that barely suppressed anger face, right?
Yeah,
he's just wrestling that wheelchair, trying to get it into the trunk of the car.
Yeah, as I said, but that's
doesn't understand why it's not working.
Yep. And so that was pretty funny. Made quite a gag out of the wheelchair, and then having to carry me during the movie. And
what kind of response have you been getting from friends, from strangers, from actors in the weeks since it came out?
Everybody. The day I went out there, my phone wouldn't stop. People texting me, good luck. I had about 20 people saying, Jim, good luck, break a leg. I'm like, please, can you come up with something a little better? You know, I would have laughed, but, you know, that's very obvious, you know, break an arm, something different, you know. But, oh, it's all been great. My family loves it. You know, my daughter will tell friends or neighbors, oh, my dad's in a movie. And I'm sitting there like, wasn't your dad dying last year? And they're like, yeah, right. And no, he isn't. She'll show him pictures. My daughter actually came to the set one day with my grandson, and I got a picture of him and Adam Sandler fighting with each other. So it's pretty cool. And Adam signed it, autographed it. So,
well, I'm so encouraged, and I, for one, really did enjoy this movie as well.
Right.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I laughed a lot more, but you know, I forget if this was on air or not. But you've mentioned that there have been some critical detractors as well, and you know, not everyone comes out and loves everything that Adam Sandler does these days.
right.
How's it been dealing with the critical feedback, or do you just not think about that at all?
I mean, I read it just to see what they're saying, but I don't, you know, I ignore what they say. As I said, if a movie makes me laugh, it's funny. You know, and I've had that attitude long before I got into this. So, you know, critics will kill a lot of movies, and I just say, you know what, if I enjoyed it, it's good. And it takes a lot to get me to laugh, and I barely laughed through most of that movie. And so, I mean, some of the things they do that are so subtle, I won't give the movie away, but some of the things they do that are so subtle, like inviting the guys into the house, you know, it's comedic genius. They're genius. I mean, to come up with that, some of these things, it's just like, you know, who would even think of that, you know? And that's what they do. That's what they do. What I was surprised about, too, Adam, a lot of times, he'd throw me a line that wasn't in the script. And I'd sit there and I'm like, where the heck did that come from? You know? And so I'd ad-lib a little bit, and some of them they cut out, some of them they didn't, but...
do you remember an example of a line he threw you that wasn't in the script? To put you on the spot.
No, the one I remember most that they cut it for time restraints. I guess Netflix wanted, because the movie ran a little long. I think it ran an hour and 50 minutes, and Netflix wanted to keep it under 2 hours, so they didn't. But they cut a part out there. I really can't think of anything offhand. It was a lot of small things, but I know they brought me into New York when we were playing Parcheesi in the basement. They brought me into. I didn't have a line there. Adam had me saying something else, and they cut that, but they brought me to New York just to say double it. When Chris Rock said, "Oh, you can double it," and basically I was telling him he's full of crap that you know, there was. I just said, "Oh, double it," and they drove me into New York for took about 10 minutes and drove me back to do that one little piece of whatnot.
Yeah. I want to transition to your future career as an actor and what your communications have been like with Adam Sandler since the movie. But you're jumping into Seymour Lustig voice for a second. That reminds me, since we're on radio and this is an audio medium, I've got to ask you to at least say one full sentence in the Seymour Lustig voice. Can you give us a line that Seymour had, or even just what you ate for breakfast in the Seymour? Just give us a bit more of that Lustig growl.
A lot of times I would just go up to people in JFK Airport and say, "Hi, I'm Seymour Lustig from Miami, Florida. How are you today?" And they just looked at me like I was crazy, and or I'd go over and knock people's luggage over and say, "Hey, what are you looking at?" And but I still love doing the voice. I would do it a lot on set, you know, and stay in character. And like when they had all the extras there, I used to give them a hard time all the time. I'd go up and say, "What's the matter? McDonald's wasn't hiring today? You had to come here? Well, you're gonna be fired in about an hour as soon as we're done." And so I had a lot of fun doing that. But
that's great. You really method actor style, throwing yourself into Seymour Lustig, even when the camera's not rolling. That's
right.
That's a lot of fun.
I don't know when to stop now. You know,
I'm sure your family and friends appreciate
I find myself at Dunkin' Donuts and okay, give me a medium. Oh, sorry, give me a medium. But what I do, I have had a lot of fun at. I'll just go to random people. I'm either waiting for the bus or I'm at a store and the cashier is cashing me out, and they'll say, "Oh, do you have Netflix, by the way?" And they'll give me a weird look, and it's always the same thing. And they'll say, if they say yes, they'll say, "Hey, have you seen that movie The Week Of with Adam Sandler and Chris Rock?" And I had a girl the other day at Stop and Shop. She goes, "Oh yeah, it was funny." She goes, "But I didn't like the way they treated that old guy." I said, "No, they treated him pretty good." She goes, "No, the guy in the movie." I said, "I am the guy in the movie." And she goes, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am. I'm Seymour Lustig from Miami, Florida." She goes, "Oh my God, you are!" So I have a lot of fun doing that.
Was that at the Stop and Shop in New Haven?
In Hamden, yeah.
In Hamden.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have a lot of fun doing that. And I
That's
had a
great.
woman come up to, she was looking at me, and a lot of people look at me because I'm missing my legs, but she was looking at me, and she came up, she goes, "Are you in that movie with Adam Sandler?" I said, "Well, how would you know that?" I said, "I'm in makeup." She goes, "Oh, I read the article in the paper, and it said you were from Hamden, so I assumed it was you." I said, "Well, you're right." So that's pretty cool having people come over.
And what do you think about how the cast, crew, Sandler treated you as a double amputee? You know, someone in a wheelchair. Did they treat with your respect? Did you feel?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
respected
You
all
know,
the time?
I've heard a couple people say, "Oh, you know, it was disrespectful." No, no. They, you know, somewhat like the joke that Steve Buscemi says when I meet him in the ballpark parking lot when he has the big bottles of booze, and he goes, "Hey, Pop, don't get up." He got that from me. So it wasn't them making fun of me. I would come up with the jokes to, you know. So you know, they were so respectful of me. They always went out of their way to make sure I was taken care of, to make sure I was accommodated for, you know. So you know, quite the opposite. You know, they were great, absolutely great.
Well, who's also being great is Jim Barone at WNHH's Deep Focus today. I'm your host, Tom Breen, and we're talking about his starring role in the Weka of the new Adam Sandler movie on Netflix. So the movie's out. It's on Netflix. Seems to be doing well. Jim, you said that I think just earlier today or yesterday you were in touch with Adam Sandler. Tell us a bit about your relationship with Sandler after the movie came out, and what does it look like going forward for you as an actor and a Sandler collaborator?
Yeah, I felt we had a good rapport, and I remember talking to my sister when I came back, my younger sister, and saying, "Oh, you know, a good rapport. I think he'll probably call me for something down the road." She says, "Oh, well, don't get your hopes up." And I says, "I just felt we had a good rapport. We really did." And but when I left the set, I spoke to him and I said, "Adam, you know, you never ever need a crazy guy from New Haven with no legs to do a movie." I said, "Give me a call." And he says, "Jimmy, I'm not doing another movie without you." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, you know, whatever." Well, about 7 days after I got home, he called me just to see how I was doing. And matter of fact, when we had the rap party a couple weeks later, I was talking to his manager, who's a lifelong friend of his, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he says, "we're on the set that day," and he goes, "Actually, I called you and then handed out on the phone." He goes, "I was looking at him." He says, "You know," I said, "Adam, what's wrong?" He goes, "Yeah, you know, it's just not the same on the set since Jimmy left. I got nobody to joke around with, you know." And but he's called me a few times. Matter of fact, he called me about 3 or 4 days ago. So I think he's got some plans for me. I don't know what, but I don't know. Maybe taking out his trash. I don't know. But no, I think he's got something.
And what
for me down
about
the road.
your own personal goals for being an actor? You hoping to be in more movies, or is it just you want to
I'd
spend
like
more
to
time
be in
with
more
this guy?
movies. I'd like to work with Adam. I know he's been on tour doing his comedy thing, stand up thing all winter. But just because I broke in with him and he's just such a fun guy to work with. I couldn't imagine working with another group that would be as fun as working with the group that I was with. And as I said, he always has Steve Buscemi in all his movies. Chris Rock's always there. So and Robert Smigmel's usually around. And I just couldn't envision. But they loved the part. The Netflix executives that I met at the premiere all came up to me and pat me on the back. And so I don't know where that's going to take me. We'll see. I would like to write a book. I haven't got around to find anybody who will sit down with me. I've had a fascinating life. Well before this movie started, I could have wrote a book. But now
could you share? Well, you probably want to keep a few of those details for the book. But what when you say fascinating, give us a taste of
good
what,
and bad. I've had like for instance, when I lost my legs, a lot of people say, "Oh, that's Jim." Like when I was 11, I got run over by a car, shattered my hip. Took about 6 months to heal that up. 2 weeks after it healed, I was jumping across a brook by my house and broke my foot. About a year and a half later, I was hopping a freight train that used to run the canal line, the trail that runs the length in Connecticut there. I was hopping a freight train with my friends, and I slipped, and my foot got caught underneath the wheel, and I lost half my foot. A few years after that, I got in a car accident doing 90 miles an hour, no seatbelt, and walked away. And a few other car accidents, wrapped the car around a tree, and so I've got a few lives, but so it's been a quite interesting life, both good and bad. And I guess where I was up at Gaylord, they're really pushing my story because it's to go from a double amputee to your whole life changes for the worse, and you got to learn to relive your life again. And for this to happen, and I'm kind of it's very confusing when you look at it. It's like hey, I got to work with some of the funniest people in Hollywood, but I had to lose my legs to get it. You know, so and then somebody said to me, "Oh, well, some people would lose their legs to get it." And like, no, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't.
So again, you're answering the questions even before I ask it, which is great. But I'm going to ask a kind of a big, cheesy one anyway. But what's this whole experience meant to you? I mean, this being able to spend a few months on the set and now potentially a kind of a lifetime relationship with a pretty big comedian, maybe future movies ahead. But how's this all affected Jimmy the person?
I'm still sorting it all out, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's I can't. I don't even think it's hit me yet. The movie. It was just so. It was almost like it was meant to be, and so I just took it in stride. I never was The only one time I was starstruck on the set is they had sent a limo to take me to a doctor's appointment in New Haven, and I wasn't. I had the day off. And me and my assistant went there, and just as I was pulling up, the director calls me and said, "Jim, could you get back to Long Island by 4 o'clock? We got a scene we want you to be in tonight at the house." And I said, "Well, I'll see what I can do." And I made it back by 4 o'clock, and they brought me downstairs, and we're sitting doing the Parcheesi game. And I'm sitting there, Chris Rock sitting next to me, Adam Sandler sitting next to him, and then the two women I have as sisters in the movie, one was Tony Soprano's mother-in-law, and the other one played Joey's agent on Friends. And then I had Rachel Drak on the other side, and Steve Buscemi's behind me. And I'm looking around the table, I'm like, how the heck did I get here? And I just overwhelmed. That just overwhelmed me. I was like, what am I doing here? It was like Alice in Wonderland, But
well, may you cherish that experience, and may you have more of those to come.
I hope. We'll see. So.
And have movies always been important to you? You lifelong movie fan?
I always like movies. I always
like
joking around a lot. I like to make people laugh. When I'm at my worst, if I make people laugh, it makes me feel better. As I said, I clowned around a lot when I was up at Gaylord Hospital. I used to call the nurse's office and pretend I was the director and tell them to take better care of that guy in room 103, Jim Barone, and different things like that. And, I like making people laugh.
I think that's as good a place as any to wrap this up. Jim, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thanks so much for sharing your experiences. And if people want to find out more about this movie or about, I don't know, do you have like a contact, an email or a Facebook page? How can folks reach you?
Jimmy Barone 22, JIMMY, Barone, BARONE 22 at gmail.com. You can contact me. Anybody who wants to write a book. And I'm single too, by the way.
There you go. So anyone looking for a book or anything else, Jimmy Barone 22 at gmail.com. The movie is on Netflix. It's called The Week Of. You can check it out now and probably for a long time to come. I don't see that movie going anywhere anytime soon. Jim, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
You can go to deepfocusradio.com to find links to all of the movies that we've spoken about today, and also links to over nearly 3 years now of conversations about movies in New Haven. And we'll catch up with you next week with another episode. Well, that was great. Thanks a lot, Jim. Yeah,